Welcome to Office 2010 video number 1. Hey, this is for Business 216 at Highline Community College. This is a class that will teach us how to use Office 2010. We'll learn Windows Explorer, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and a little bit of Access. All right, so this is the desktop. These are some icons on the desktop. Right down here, this is called the Taskbar. Taskbar is great because it has the Start menu. We'll get to use that occasionally. There's how you get to all programs. If you don't, I'm going to click Escape. Escape key is up in the upper left corner to get rid of that menu. If you don't have shortcuts here, there's a shortcut for Excel. There's a shortcut for Word. Then you can come to Start Programs, click on it, and then up here somewhere, Microsoft Office, you can click. By the way, this is called a pane that pops up here, and then below here you can figure out whichever one you want. If I want Excel, I would click on that. There's the control panel. I'm going to click Escape, Escape. Taskbar down here at the bottom, it has shortcuts. Oh, what's that right there? That actually is an open program. And I have Camtasia. That's the recorder I'm using to record these videos. Now, the operating system that we're using for this class is going to be Windows 7. All right. Now, you're going to need to take your USB drive, which is a portable device to store files and folders, and you're going to have to put it in the front of the computer. But before you do that, I got to teach you our first keyboard shortcut. In this class, we're going to be doing lots of keyboard shortcuts. Why? Because they are faster. We need to open up something called Windows Explorer. That's the first program we're going to learn in this class. You could go to Start and then Computer. Boop. And then that would give you this, Windows Explorer. I'm going to come up here. This is called the title bar. And I'm going to click that X. Close it. Now, the keyboard shortcut we're going to use is Window E. What? Where's the Window key? The Window key is between Control and Alt. It's got the Microsoft Windows symbol. So I'm going to hold Window key down and then tap the letter E. That's what we're going to use every single day in this class when we come here. We're going to do our file management, open files, verify that files are saved to the right location, delete files, all that kind of stuff using Windows Explorer. Now, we see over here on the left, there's a left side and a right side. The address bar is up here, and then there's some menus and buttons up here. The left side is awesome because it shows you the hierarchical structure of your computer, all the drives you have available for whatever it is for storing files and folders. On the right side, oh, that's whatever you have selected on the left shows up. Whatever's inside of computer shows up over here. Now, I want you to take your USB drive, and I'm going to plug it in the front of my computer, and we can immediately see. If I can get it plugged in here. And there it is. I have L. You're, depending on what computer or what lab you're using, you'll see something, whatever letter it is. This happens to be L here. Notice there's some pluses, and then you can click here. I'm going to click. So once I click over here on the left, you can see it's highlighted in blue, and I can see everything inside that particular drive. This is a jump drive, a portable media that I put in here. When I click over here, notice what happens. It turns gray. That gray means, hey, it's still selected, but now this right side is activated. Now, Windows Explorer, we'll use this throughout the rest of the class. Very handy for file management, creating folders, saving files, deleting, moving, copying, all sorts of things. Now, in this first intro video, I just want to do a couple basic things, and then our next two videos we'll do more with Windows Explorer. I would like to create a folder over here, a new folder, and then create two new files, a Word and Excel file, and just see if we can save them. And in the process, we'll also get to see some of the new user interface inside of Excel and Word for Office 2010. All right, so if you have this side selected, you can create a folder a couple different ways. One way is to right click. Now, in this class, when I say click, that means left click. When I say right click, I'm going to right click. Now I'm going to right click the thing I want to do something to. And the thing I want to do something to is this white. Right click. And now there's a context sensitive menu. I'm going to point down to new and folder. All right, I'm going to call this my first folder. And then hit enter. Now, when I created that new folder, it was automatically highlighted, the title there. So as soon as I started typing, it entered a name that I want. Now, it's flashing that little cursor right there, and it's not officially registered as the new name for this folder until I hit enter. Enter. Now, I'm going to do another way. I'm noticing that there's a button up here called New Folder. In this class, we're going to do lots of keyboard shortcuts. We've already learned one, Window E, to open up Windows Explorer. Now, I want you to tap the Alt key. And what happened? Actually, let me click Escape. I should have been better. Notice here's the file menu, right? Now, Escape, by the way, just unselected it. But watch when I hit Alt. It's underlined. That underline means if I tap that F, it will give me this menu. So I'm going to tap F. And notice this is a menu. We see fewer of these in Office 2010. In earlier versions, pretty much everything was a menu. All right. And notice there's a new item right there. And notice it has an underlined W. And then this is called a submenu. When you point to this, I'm not clicking on it, I'm just pointing. Then you see an underlined F. Now I'm going to click Escape, 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 and try this Alt F W F. And that creates a new folder. Now, these Alt keyboard shortcuts, we will use them occasionally in this class. But what you do is you figure out what operations or program features you use all the time, and then memorize the Alt keyboard shortcuts. If you're creating folders a lot in Windows 2010, Windows 7 operating system, that Alt FWF is great. Now I'm going to name this. Notice it's polite. It's highlighted it. It says, hey, please give me a name. So I'm going to type my second folder and then enter. All right, now I want to open up a file and just do one or two things and then save them. And I'd like to save them to these folders right here. I'm going to come down here to the taskbar, and I can see there's a green X right there. So I can click on that for Excel. The clipboard is open over here. That contains all the things I've copied. This is called a task pane. We'll see a few of these throughout our studies. I'm going to click that X right there. And I'm going to immediately notice that we're in Office 2010, different than earlier versions. Whoa, meaning different than Excel 2003 and earlier. We see this, what's called the ribbon. These are tabs up here. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But first, I'd like to talk about the title bar up here. Book 1, not a good name. So we want to save this and name it. But notice the title bar. It has the quick access toolbar, which we'll talk about in a moment. The name, which is, we don't have a name yet. The program name, and then close. Restore down, which means if you click on that, it makes it small. And then you can change the side by pointing to the edge like that. When you see that diagonally pointing arrow, then you can click and drag. This maximizes, and this restores down to whatever the last size is that you had. Minimize. Now minimize, if you click this, notice here's our taskbar. Oh, I have the video recorder open, Excel and Windows Explorer. Oh, so taskbar is awesome because I can see all the different programs. I have 1, 2, 3 programs open. But watch this. When I hit this, this is the minimize. It doesn't close it. It just sends it down to the taskbar. I'm going to actually, before I save the Excel, do that with this also. And whoa, there's the desktop. But you could see these are all minimized down to the taskbar. All right, I'm going to come here, click on that button, that icon button for Excel on the taskbar. Now I can see it again. It wasn't closed. It was just minimized. I'm going to maximize. Now, we're going to save this. There in 2010, they brought back the file tab, but I want you to click on this. This is much different than earlier versions. This is called the backstage view. And notice there's a couple really cool things. Recent workbooks and recent places, which means recent folders you visited. Over here, by the way, the backstage view is contain operations or actions or features that do something to the entire document, like print it or save it. There's save, save as, open, close. I'm going to click escape because there's save and there's save as, and we'll talk about the difference between those over the next couple videos. But we're basically never in this class going to use this button or this one. I'm always going to use keyboard shortcuts because they are faster. I'm going to click escape. I do want to save this. Now, there's a keyboard shortcut, F12. The F keys are along the very top, and we will use them, a lot of those F keys in this class. F12 opens up Save As. Now, this is a little bit different than earlier versions because it sort of looks like Windows Explorer. Here's the left side. Here's the right side. So anything you select over here, you get to see the contents over here. Notice it says Save As. So I'm going to use my scroll bar. These are scroll bars here. Don't be afraid of them. Sometimes you have a huge system of folders, and so you've got to use the scroll bar. Now I'm going to click on this. Notice there's a plus, and you can either click on the plus, which opens that. You could see it just immediately opened that. Or you can actually, the minus means if I click on that, it collapses it. But watch this. I can click on this just once, and it shows me what's inside over here. This is the same as Windows Explorer. The pluses and minuses open and close on the left side only. If you click here, it opens it, and you can see it over here. I'm going to then click always on the left here. I'm going to click on My First Folder. Now, this is Save As. Save As. And there are 3 parts to Save As. The first one is where do you want to save it? Well, notice up here, Computer. Oh, there's our Lexar L, or whatever letter colon you have for your jump drive. And there's the folder. So this is the path, the file path. So where do you want to save it? That's the first part to Save As. What do you want to call it? That's the file name. I'm going to highlight this whole thing and type My First Folder. And where do you want to save it? What do you want to call it? And what type is it, or what file extension? .xlsx. Now, some of you may not see this on your home computer. I will show you how to show that extension in a later video coming up in the next video or the 2 videos ahead. But nevertheless, you get to choose your file type. Now, I'm going to click this drop down here. Wow, there are lots of file types. If you were in earlier versions, 2003 or earlier, you would select this one, .xls. Now, and if you're going to save this workbook and give it to someone who you know doesn't have Excel 2007 or 2010, then you should use this file extension. Otherwise, we're going to stick with this new one, .xlsx, .xlsm. The M means you're allowed to write code behind the scenes. Now, that's an advanced topic we don't get into in this class. This is the default on most computers for 2007 and 2010. It's .xlsx. Later throughout the class, we'll get to see a few of these different file types, including PDF. All right, I'm going to just select the type. So the type or file extension. Where do you want to save it? What do you want to call it? And what type is it? I'm going to click Save. Now notice down here on the taskbar, I could click. And I could go to Windows Explorer. I could click here, go back to Excel, click here. I want to teach you a keyboard shortcut, Alt and Tab. And the way you do this is you have to hold the Alt key down and tap, just like this, when you tap with your finger. Tap, Tab. You could see when I'm still holding Alt, and I'm going to tap, 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 tap. I'm holding down the Alt and tapping Tab. I'm allowed to jump between programs. If I hold Alt and Tab, Alt, Tab, I can jump back and forth. That is an awesome keyboard shortcut when you're jumping back and forth between programs and you are multitasking. tasking. Now I'm going to type Excel into cell A1 and hit Enter. Enter puts the word Excel in cell A1 and moves the cursor down one. Now I'm going to save. Just a moment ago, I used the keyboard shortcut F12. Let's just try that. Hit F12. Notice it brings this back up again, but I don't need to open this because I've already saved it one time, and I'm going to save it with the same name. I'm going to click Escape to close this, Escape. And now let's try Control S. When I Control S, it saves the file and any changes I made. So I changed the content of cell A1. And so when I Control S, it saves it. And the way Control S works is you hold Control and tap S. You can see kind of when I do that, just for a moment here, watch my cursor. It turns into a little hourglass timer with sand in it. All right, now I want to open up Word. I'm going to come down to the Start menu. I see the little blue W there, but Start, All Programs, Microsoft Office, and then click here, and it will open Word. I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. I'm going to use F12 to save as. And I'm going to navigate on the left. Here's my Lexar. So I'm going to open this plus. I'm going to go to my second folder. So the location, I'm going to change the name. My second file. I'm going to save the type. The third part of save as is .docx. That is the default for 2007 and 2010. And I'm going to click Save. All right, and then I'm going to type Word, Enter. And now I'm going to Control S. Watch my cursor just for a moment. All right. Now, I want to close Word. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to use that X. Or you can use the keyboard shortcut Alt F4. Alt F4. Now, notice I'm over in Excel now. I'm going to use Alt F4. Now, I want to use Windows Explorer to verify that I actually created those files and saved them to the correct location. I'm going to come over here. I want to see on the left. I'm going to click that plus. I'm going to click in my first folder. Sure enough, there it is. And I'm going to click my second folder. And sure enough, there it is. All right, now I'm going to use Windows Explorer here to open this file. I'm going to click on this file and right-click Open. I'm going to click Escape. Or you can just simply hit Enter. And it opens it back up. Now, just a little bit about Office 2010. This is called the ribbon. And in earlier versions, we had, if I Alt-Tab, see, I'm going to go back to Windows Explorer. We had mostly menus like this. And we saw an example. You click on this, and then there's some words. I'm going to click Escape, Alt-Tab to go back over to Word. So we have these things called ribbons. And what they did, the idea is they added buttons, more buttons with icons, so it's easier to find things. And there's tabs. If you click on the Insert tab, this is still the ribbon. It's just called the Insert tab. You can see I can insert things like pictures, clip art, layout. This is where we'll do page layout. There are lots of different things here. There's some buttons. There's some text boxes here. There's even a dialog launcher. We'll get to use that. If I click on this, it opens the page setup, which we'll learn about when we study Word. I'm going to click Escape. All right. Couple other things. I actually should, this by default on your computer, shows up here, and you don't have these extra little icons here. But this is called the QAT, the Quick Access Toolbar, and there's Save, Undo, and Redo. We're not going to use those. We're going to use keyboard shortcuts in this class because they are much faster. And we'll see over in Word and Excel how we can customize this. Okay, but that's called the Quick Access Toolbar. These are called the ribbons, the tabs. We talked about the file. If you click there, you get your backstage view. I'm going to click Escape. Things like print are in backstage view. I'm going to click Escape. Down here, we talked about the taskbar. Right here, this is called the status bar. And this is kind of nice. There's zoom. There's different views, which we'll talk about when we study Word and Excel. And in Word, it says things like how many pages. In Excel, there'll be some cool things down in the status bar also. All right, one last thing before we end this intro video. I do want to look at the ribbon, and I do want to look at screen resolution. Now, we learned just a little while ago the keyboard shortcut for opening Windows Explorer. It was Window E. Now I want to teach you the keyboard shortcut for show the desktop. Window key, except for instead of W, you use D. So I'm going to hold the window key down and tap D. It shows you the desktop. Now I'm going to right click somewhere in the blue, right click, and sure enough, screen resolution is there. I'm going to click on that. If you change the screen resolution, it will change how the ribbon looks. So for example, if I click this drop down and I come way down here to resolution and click apply, reverting to previous. It'll make everything much bigger. If I go over to Word, it'll make everything much bigger, and your ribbon will look different. Now I'm going to revert. Oh, look at that. I got revert. It doesn't matter. If you kept it, which it looks like I did, you can come back and click on whichever one you want here. But screen resolution will affect how that ribbon looks. The textbook, when you do your homework, tells you whichever screen resolution. I think it's this one right here, as a matter of fact, that all the screenshots in the textbook are. All right, I'm going to close this. We're in Word. I'm going to close this right here using the red X or Alt F4. And that's just our introduction, just a little bit about the new Office, a little bit about Windows Explorer. And when we come back in our next video, we're going to do a multitasking and Windows Explorer project. We'll see you next video.